a great opportunity also for us to look from how you react to this unbelievable situation. It's just an unbelievable situation.
Yeah. So I think we can start. So thank you everyone for joining us for our daily summary of the first day of this hackathon. We're very excited to have Piero Pelizzaro, Chief Resilience Officer from the City of Milan, here with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to participate and be here with us. Well, first, I think that everyone's very curious to hear about your perspective and your view of the specific challenges to this hackathon and the situation in general. And afterwards, we'll be telling you a few words about the day that we've had so far and what to expect tomorrow and submission on Tuesdays. So Piero,
okay,
all yours.
Do you want me to share? Can I share the screen as I'm slide?
Sure.
Maybe could be. Okay. Hello everybody. I think my screen is now visible. I think.
Yeah.
Yes. So as I was saying, I'm the Chief Resilience Officer of the City of Milan. With EFRAD, we are part of the Global Resilient Cities Network, and unluckily, after China, we were one of the first city affected by the emergence of the virus. And I think we were one of the first cities that goes lockdown. Being locked down live is meaning that you cannot walk outside more far than 200 meters from your house. You're allowed to go out only for food, medicine. You're not allowed to have open air activities such as sport, or well, actually you can jogging, but you can jogging only between your house and 200 meters. So it's kind of become a crazy stuff. And you can get out for walking with dogs or with puppies. But what does it mean, all these things? That there is a lot of situations are critical. And I think the first thing we need to look at. The first element is to remember that the emergency, the people who were suffering before the emergency are suffering. And sometimes we forget there's a lot of part of the community that is suffering with mental disease, trouble people, or low income people. That we're going to
תעשו מיוט מי שלא מדבר.
They're going to suffer even more during this crisis. So that is the first thing to look at. Don't focus on the people that are well, but try to thinking about the one is suffering and were suffering before. They have some problem with their health in general or for their income, and now they need more help. So that is the first. Maybe this is much important because let me make a joke. Rich could survive, poor could be not survive. That it's not a joke, but it's something that we need to think about. So one of the first things I want to share with you that a lot of the decisions were taken in the country are not city-based decisions. In Italy, we have 3 different levels: the national government, the regional government, and the city government. And all the health policy and the health decision as the lockdown has been decided by the national government and the regional government. Why I'm highlighting this kind of issue for you guys? And because when we think about a city government, we always have to keep in mind the multi-level government. So how we can integrate different systems of data and information and communication between the national, the regional, and the local level. It's one of the most important things we have faced. So let me go to something. As a city, since the beginning, we have decided to organize ourselves in 3 different groups of working. The one that are dealing with emergency management, so the one is in charge to deal with emergency. The second group of public servant working are supporting the community that are not infected, but are forced to quarantine or to lockdown. And the third one is a task force working on the plan 0, so for when the emergency ends. And now it's not anymore for when the emergency ends, but how we can start a plan 0, so a recovery plan, since now, because we understand that there is not an end at the moment on this. So there is not a proper data, so a proper timing when these things we're gonna finish. So something we need to understand and how we can use emergency measures that they are already the first action of a recovery plan. So we don't need, as much as possible, we need to try to identify solution that could be helpful for the emergency, but already helpful for what comes next. So that is something adaptive and not something defined as in terms of solution. But I think it's a challenge for all of us. I'll give you something we are thinking. After the lockdown, or as we call the red zone or the red alert, there will be maybe the orange one. So there is less restriction, but still restriction. And this restriction maybe could be on how far you have to be from one person to the other. And what we were thinking is why we are not starting to design new bike line or new pedestrian areas within the city and taking the place that normally is taken by cars and design new walking routes or bike routes for people. So in this time, at the end of the red time, so there will be more needed for walking or biking. So how we can try to look at this? We need to be as much as possible faster in design new bike line or a new pedestrian line. This is something, some application could help for this. One is an open question, but that is something that it's an inspiring solution. The other one is also how we can design maybe new green infrastructures that could be used also as a sign to separate people from the others. When we plant tree on the street, normally it's 3 or 4 or 5 meters. Why are we not starting 2 meters far from the other? So you already have a kind of a line that could be designed within the city that could be helpful for the people queuing at the supermarket on the other shore. So there is a few challenges the city are still looking. It's how we can involve citizens during the lockdown, the quarantine. Involving citizens is meaning being part of the emergency process, but also being part of supporting community to the others, or at the same time involving citizens thinking about the future. How we can get the people involved and start thinking the recovery plan after. How we can rethink our ordinary and essential services for citizens. Give you an example that it's in the next slide, but I can share with you the slide, guys, and then if you want to keep as materials. We were capable to move more than 120 offline services into online services. It means all the kind of documents you need for a municipality were before offline, and in a few days we move online. How we can then improve this kind of digital approach for the public authorities. I know that maybe in Israel it's more advanced, but remember we are in Italy, and in Italy we are a country for elderly people than for the young people. So the digital divide is quite high. How to communicate with citizens and provide reliable information. As was studied at the beginning and still now, more than 40% of the tweets that are delivered nowadays come from machine. So basically are fake news. So we are living in a time of emergency with 40% of the information that is available for the community and the social that are fake news. How we can work and communicate in a better way? Here sometimes, maybe it's not online the solution, and it could be how we can reach people offline. So that is an open question. And how to combat distrust in institution. These days is quite important, how we can make more trust in the institution. So, few information what we did. Since the beginning, we were capable to move more than 3,500 people from desk office to smart working in 3 days. Nowadays, we reach 6,000 people, public servant of the city of Milan, that are now working smart working. Why? Because we need to keep all our services going, even in this time. And it is a great challenge. And this is also a challenge for us, how we improve the process of our work. So maybe we need more digital tools to support our conversation or our or our way to work together. Other measures we have taken is about mobility. Milan has a congestion charge and pollution charge. So if you want to drive into the city, in the city center, actually in all cities, you have to pay normally in every day because we need to reduce the air pollution. So now all the area B and the area C, so the congestion charge and pollution charge are suspended. As well, we have created a suspension for the restricted areas where they normally only like emergency vehicles open or not. And now there is a conversation. Should we reintroduce after it, even in the orange time, the congestion charge or not? How we can make available? Why there is this question? It's not for an environmental issue now, it's a matter of economical issue. Because the people are going to have to suffer for the crisis, because there will be a social economical crisis. So now the question is, do we want to charge our citizens in a hard time for this? But then the consequences will be more pollution. So it's an important things to look at in perspective. All our educational programs move from class or face-to-face activities to online activities. And we have so much to learn, to improve on this, for example, because we want to guarantee to our pupils that are forced to be home to continue their education, even during this time. Normally, the school in Italy gonna end at the beginning of June, and most probably the school will never have open again this year. So how we can guarantee all the educational activities until the end of the year, that is supposed to be June. So this is something, how we can improve the learning process, the digital learning process for cities. One other services is to guarantee activities, cultural activities to the community during this time. So our public library and our cinema library and the movie library has been makes available. For example, the library, we have now free 33,000 free download ebooks. We have more than 2,000 free online movie streaming. That is also how we can support people to spend their time home, not that maybe wasting in front of stupid programs, maybe with something more educated and so on. Then we have administration services that, as I mentioned before, here there is something that is important in general, is what we have suffered since the beginning. We were taking care as well of homeless people and drug addicted, because there are people normally living on the street and now it's banned to live in the street. So we have made available a new public residential buildings for homeless people, so they could have a room in the house. We have improved the capacity to deliver food, because at the beginning as well was forbidden, and we need to close the canteen that were normally used by homeless to get food. And now there is a new way of giving food to people on the street. We call the suspended lunch. So basically people are delivering the lunch from the window, and they leave the food suspended from the window, so people can get there and collect food from the chest. But this homeless, how we look at homeless and drug addiction was something important for us. And on the other end, what Milan have done is also like to suspend the tax payment. We have now split the tax on waste from 2 rates to 4. We have refund the kindergarten taxes and the school canteen taxes. And as well, we have makes a delay in the payment of public housing. What does it mean for a city, something like that? We are the annual turnover of the budget of the city of Milan is 3.5 billion euro. What we are expecting for this year is to lose at least 1 billion euro in our budget. And this is also because there is less people using travel, while public transport, we have seen a reduction of 94% of passengers in a few days. There will be no tourists coming, so no tax for over the tourists. Revenue from the airport and the others. But that is something that we should thinking, how we can then try to rebalance our budget. Housing, that is something I think it's interesting for you a lot. During the last few years, we have worked a lot on the sharing economy approach and the platform and collaborative economy. So we have now launched a public bid to ask to people that normally rent out house for tourists or businessmen to make their house available for people in quarantine, for doctor and nursery coming from out of the Milan to support the hospital here, or for other people. Some example that's happened. We have seen people that get well after being infected by the virus, so they get out from the hospital, but they cannot go back home because their family is still in quarantine. So basically they are out of the hospital, but with no place to go. And this is something that comes and have food from Airbnb or other sharing platform for housing. They are now supporting, giving us a lot of this housing. What we have also launched almost 2 weeks ago now is a mutual aid fund. At the beginning, the city of Milan has invested 3 million euro, and we are now collecting a lot of donations from private company and individuals. This mutual aid fund will be supporting two kinds of activities: all the services related to persons, so the social services somehow, and on the other end, what will be also supportive, it will be all for the freelance that is working a lot. The city of Milan is a city that part of their economy is based on the entertainment. A lot of these people are daily worker or are seasonal worker and freelance, and due to this event, a lot of them are going to lose their job. So how we can somehow economically support, but also what we need to think is how we can reconvert these people and it's time for other activities. Tourism event I just mentioned. Other three questions we were reconsidering is how we can provide a psychological support to the population, how we can reconsider the social distance and the people that are addicting from social contact. So it's I think how we could support people to rethink themselves, to be always out, having aperitivo in the Navigli in Milan, being out in the event, how we can then now deal with their psychological approach in being more supportive with this. And the other question is how we can involve, activate community, establishing solidarity or sustainability action. Because one message is pretty clear, that it's a big opportunity for sustainability coming out of this virus. Because nowadays you are forced to work, you are forced to consume locally and with proximity. So all the works that we have tried to do during the last 20 years, suddenly it happened. Not because we decide, but because of an emergency. So how we can capitalize, how we can scale up all the benefit in terms of environmental sustainability comes through the virus even later. That is an open question for us at the moment. So one other, we have creating a community partnership platform. Here it's Milan, on the right side is Milano Aiuta. Here there is all different services, and we can, one service, for example, in this platform, you can register yourself as a volunteer, and then you can pick the action you want to support in the city, and how we can match demand and offers of needs and volunteering and activities to support. So that is something that is really important. One other, there is something in common between Milan and Tel Aviv. That is the food pact. In 2015, the Milan has launched the Milan Food Pact, and we have a local food policy. Thanks to that local food policy that was launched 5 years ago, now we have 7 hubs in the city, and each of these hubs are now delivering food for low-income people and the people that are vulnerable population. So what is now we are trying to match is from the origin of the food to get to the hub and then to deliver to the people. And sometimes you still need some more matching in this to be as much as possible efficient. And the food deliver and the food issue, it's one of the biggest one. We were talking with one of our colleagues, Maya and Efrat, from Quito, David. He was telling us that in Quito, in Ecuador, they are suffering a lot, the lack of food, but even more, the lack of delivering food to the rural population. So food delivering and food support, I think is one of the main topics that we should look at in terms of solution, because it's really needed all over the globe. And because if in Tel Aviv or Milan we can organize ourselves, in other countries it's not so easy as it is. And to support, for example, the delivery of food, we have created these collaborative maps with the city, with my colleagues. And now you can see on the maps that are, here is map and georeferenced, all the different shops that are open in the city, from the small one to the big one, but also all the different restaurant or bar that are not open for the people, but are open for delivering. So you can get all the information, you have timing, and you can have people. Something similar, some of the big supermarkets also launched a new app So you can basically book your place in the queue when the main time you are waiting to get your food. That is something that could be helpful. One of the things that we were joking with colleagues and how we can make then a game in the meantime you are in the queue. So try to make the queue even more funny and more, maybe it's kind of a psychological support instead to be just lying in the queue and get boring. One other activity that's been necessary, it's been to clean up and hygienize all the city. And that is, it's essential to reduce the possibility of the virus to be spread and infected. One big issue, as well as food, as was mentioned before, is waste. Why is waste? We in Milan, we have door-to-door collection for 1.4 million people. We have separated, let's say, 99.2% of glass, or every kind of glass in Milan has been recycled. We have a collection of 67% of organic waste, but here there is an issue. For the people in quarantine, it's mandatory to not separate and differentiate the waste, but they have to put all together in a box in only one. Then we need to collect it and we need directly bring to burn it, because waste could become a way of spread of the virus. So how we track the waste since the house and to when we deliver, that is an important topics, because then it's really necessary for us to keep the environmental approach, to have a separate waste, but at the same time to be compliant with the health and sanitary indication we receive. What we have launched in the same time is a communication campaign to people to say, drink our water from the tap because it's good. It's not infecting, it's super fine. Why we launched this communication campaign? For two reasons. Because there was a lot of people buying plastic bottle during this time. But because you are more home, there will be an increased use of plastics that is leading to an increased need of waste collection. And at the same time, we cannot be too much to wish too much the waste management, because otherwise there is not enough people. So we have already said about the distance learning approach, and we are working now on, I already mentioned part of this on the Plan Zero. So how we can have a new approach to new green and public space. What could be interesting now is to have kind of solution and app, so you can make people, community play with the cities, like SimCity, like a traditional game, but how you can envisage a different cities with more space for people and less space for cars, for example. That could be an interesting things to see. So we are looking at the green way funding, digital infrastructures, and environmental transition as option for the Plan Zero. Basically, this is what the city have done. There is other initiative that comes through from the private sector. Let me conclude with only one picture, but it's also my final remarks. This was the on the left side. You have the air pollution in Milan before the virus, and now you can see the air pollution after the virus or during the virus. What does it mean? That if we want to do something or we want to change something, we can do it. Even in a time of emergency, we have seen how changing our behavior makes the quality of our environment much better. Nowadays, you can see a lot of animals walking around, and they are not the human animals, are the real animals, because nature is coming back. And I think that it's an open question in general, is how this virus could lead to a new way of reconnecting nature and the built environment. So thank you very much, and keep safe and stay home as much as possible.